If your house is overpriced, your house is overpriced.
Yeah.
And that's just, it is what it is, you know, and I can market it to my heart's content, but if it's overpriced, it's overpriced. But we are no longer, like you said, in the market where you can just stick a sign in the yard and list it $50,000 over asking and still get or $50,000 over value and still get an over asking offer with a freaking appraisal gap. Like, that's just not where we're at anymore. You know, we are in a market of skill.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Excellence Podcast. I have a special show today that follows along our theme. Today's guest was an education major from the University of Georgia. She has experience in teaching, but entered the real estate industry a few years ago. She was a production coach with Keller Williams Atlantic Partners, a large brokerage here in Jacksonville, Florida. What she found is she started to become the marketing person for many of her agents. That's when she created Saylor & Co.
That's right.
Marketing made easy for real estate agents. Grab a notebook and pen. There will need to be notes taken on this one. Let's welcome Emily Ingle to the show.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, great to have you. I gotta. It was one thing I was putting my notes together and all my graphics and stuff. Where did Saylor & Co. come from? How did you come up with that?
Well, my daughter's name is Saylor.
Okay.
Yeah, so she just turned 1 about 2 weeks ago, and she is just like the light of my life. It's just so cool. Everyone talks about how becoming a parent changes your life, and you hear that and you think, well, yeah, of course. But like, you really, when it happens, you're like, holy crap, like everything's different now in the best way. Sometimes the hardest ways. But yeah, so she was really the inspiration for starting this company, really wanting to take back control of my time and my life and be able to show up for her and be present for her. Yesterday, for instance, I got a text from daycare director. She's running a 101.5 fever.
Yeah.
And, it was great to be able to say, okay, I'm on my way, and not stressing about, like you said, in a past life, I was a teacher, not stressing about, I've got to get a sub and are my emergency lesson plans ready and those sorts of things. And so I'm so grateful to have this opportunity and get to serve the agents that I work with, and really grateful that it allows me to be there for her.
Super.
Yeah.
Super. All right. So just as we always get started, just a little background on you. Where are you from?
I am from Cleveland, Georgia. If you don't know where that is, it's really close to Helen. It's a little German town in the North Georgia mountains.
Okay.
It's really cool, honestly. A lot of people, and I once thought this, I hate this place. I can't wait to get out of here. And now that I moved away, I really appreciate everything that it brought me growing up there. Very small town, and obviously there are positives and negatives to that, but I'm really grateful for the relationships that I have with the people there. I graduated with a class of 220 kids, so pretty small.
That's about that size class I graduated somewhere like I think it was 212. I think it'd be exact.
I enjoyed it, you know, and some of my classmates, you might talk to them and they could have a totally different experience, but.
Well, you're still young yet. When they get a little older and they look back and they can actually pretty much remember everybody, or when they see pictures on, of course, Facebook and so forth, and reminisce that they really knew a lot of people in their class, and the opportunities of working with smaller groups versus
it makes a difference.
800 or 1,000 people or more in a class. That's crazy.
Yeah, when I taught high school, I taught at a few different schools, but they were always, class sizes were 800 plus, and you just don't get the same experiences, and it was just a blessing. So that's where I'm from. Yep. I moved on to go to the University of Georgia. I'm a big Bulldog fan.
Okay, so there was no other schools. That's where you're going.
There was. So I started at Georgia State University. I just knew I wanted to be a city girl, and then City Girl Rent came along, and I thought, I don't know about this. So ended up transferring to UGA. Honestly, I really thought I'm not smart enough to get in there. So I didn't even apply, and thankfully it was a lot less competitive then than it is now. But again, looking back, I don't know that I would have changed any steps of the journey, but really grateful that's where I ended up at. That's where I graduated. And
education major the whole time. Yes. That's what you wanted to do. You thought teaching was going to be your calling.
Yeah. First I was a math major, but I kind of knew teaching was the route. And then once I really got into classes, every time someone says, "What's your major?" and you say, "Oh, I'm a math major," they go, "Ugh." And I thought, man, everyone has a terrible math experience. Maybe I could change that. So went on to get math education major and taught high school for a few years. And, it was great, but things have definitely changed. And again, just wanting to be there and be present for my daughter, be able to take that time off and it not be so stressful. That could be a whole different conversation,
right.
But I'm definitely grateful for where I'm at now and am so glad that I went to the University of Georgia.
I think the math is one of those things where, and I think this goes into, and this is just coming to me, when we get into the marketing and design and some of the stuff that you do artistically there, I think math, and there's a lot of math in art through, I'm sure you studied and through those,
because you probably had to and golden ratios.
You probably had to take art history, as I know I did as an education major in going to a South Carolina college, but it's visualizing. When I'm out with the family or whatever, or my wife may ask, she'll ask me, what's this times this and so forth, and I can picture it in my head as if I'm writing it on the paper. Right. And I don't know if everyone can actually do that, and actually just take a minute and go, yep, boom, 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 add that over, subtract that. To be able to visualize it in your head and then spit out an answer as if you were writing it on the paper.
It's so funny because when my husband watches this, he's going to laugh because I am terrible at mental math.
Is that
really,
right?
Really, really bad. And
you do need to write it down.
Yeah, he always would give me a hard time and go, aren't you a math major? Aren't you a math teacher? And I'm like, yes, but I have a calculator. Like, what are you talking about? But,
New age.
Yes. Well, and I think for me, where those skills really transfer into when I was an agent and now owning my own marketing company, it's more so the interaction with people. I try to be very humble always, but I do think that I have a special gift at really being able to connect with people and figure out what's important to them. And that's what I want to help shine when I'm talking to someone about how to market them and their business, because real estate's a business of relationships, so how can we really showcase who you are so you can keep building on and strengthening those relationships? Because I think I told you this when we got together before, there's a joke that only in the state of Florida, when you meet with, or not when you meet with someone, when you get pulled over by a police officer, they don't ask you for your driver's license, they ask you for your real estate license. Just goes to show that there are so many agents, and I think people get so caught up on, how do you differentiate yourself? And they kind of look outside of themselves, but really you need to look inside, because that is how you differentiate yourself, is just showing up as you.
Right.
That's how you're going to connect with people and really strengthen those relationships and build raving fans who are going to shout your name from the rooftops whenever they hear of someone who's interested.
You do try teaching. You decide to, what is it that lures you towards real estate? I imagine the teaching was, hey, maybe this isn't what I thought it was going to be.
Right.
Why real estate versus a lot of other things?
So it's probably such a cliche story. I would have never considered real estate whenever like I said, I'm from Georgia, and my husband is from here originally, and he wanted to move back home. He lived in Georgia with me for 3 years. And for some reason, I had a really hard first year. That's what it was. Really, really tough. All teachers have a hard first year, but he was really kind of pushing the idea of becoming a real estate agent to me. And I honestly think it's because at that time we were watching $1 Million Listing New York, and I think he thought that was going to become our life. Unfortunately, it did not. But, he just kept saying, God, you would be so great at this. Like, you should get your license. You would be so great. So I studied and moved down here. We moved on like June 1st, and I took my exam sometime in July and got licensed. And I don't even know, I have always had a service heart. I want to work with and serve others. Part of me doesn't even know that it's the real estate that attracted me as much as it is the Keller Williams family. And they did not pay me to say this, y'all, but the Keller Williams Atlantic Partners organization really has something special. And for me, I'm the oldest of 6 children. I have a very big family, a very close-knit family. So to come down here and not really be around them anymore, I found that with Keller Williams. And so that has what kind of just kept me in, even when I realized, God, I don't really want to sell. I did it. I did well. The Keller Williams, it's a big accomplishment to cap. I capped. I went on to be their productivity coach, but I really didn't want to be in production. And I was like, I'm going to find a way to stay here. I like it here.
Right.
And I rent space from them now out of their office in Atlantic Beach. And it's just, I'm really grateful.
So you had a fairly successful first, start.
Yeah.
So you were making some money. That didn't give you the bug. That wasn't actually your.
It's so funny because I was making great money, especially as their productivity coach. And then it's almost like I got hit on the head or something. And I was like, I'm going to go back to teaching. But Mark Dilworth, I think he's the manager. I don't know what his official title is. He's the team leader, was managing partner. He is a good friend, a mentor. And he said, if you feel like you need to kind of explore this and really see if you're ready to close that chapter, like, do it. We support you. And I did. And it definitely taught me that I was ready to close that chapter. It was the calling that I felt like I needed to be teaching that really took me away from that. So I actually went back to teaching for a year. And that is when I really realized and felt comfortable saying, this isn't it for me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. I'm going to take a little time out and my co-sponsor here of Remy Graphics. I could put there to Remy Graphics this nice laser engraved because it's got our logo on the back, and Emily's got her gift today. She'll live. They have a lot other. I'm going to put remygraphics.com up there. Go to their website. They have a lot of other laser engraved things, but the thing I think is special for the real estate agents that are listening, they will do one-offs. If you want to have one made or two made for your someone buying a house and you want to put their name on it, which I think that's what you should do above and beyond just your logo. Put John and Sally or whatever on there. Welcome to Jacksonville, and they'll never obviously throw that away if their name's on it, right? Gift. So Remy Graphics, they'll do those one-offs, and if you mention the Real Estate Excellence Podcast, you'll save 10%. remygraphics.com.
Nice.
All right, so you go from an agent to production coach, if I followed you right. You actually leave and go back to teaching, and assume in Duval County?
St. Johns County.
Oh, you went to St. Johns County, okay. And after 9 months of that, you're like, yeah, I need to come back.
Well, and also in that time is when I found out I was having a baby.
Okay.
And so that really just brought that perspective and that clarity for me. I was at a wonderful school. I had great leadership, a great team, but it's no secret that teachers are, overworked and underpaid. St. Johns County is number 2, I think now, used to be number 1 school district in the state, but they're one of the lowest paid districts in the state. In fact, you have to work there for 17 years just to meet the average teacher pay in the state of Florida.
Yeah.
And I think 11 years just to break $50,000 in your salary.
Yeah.
Looking at that, they say going into being a teacher that it's not about the money, and it's not, but also we have to be realistic. It takes money to live, especially when you're having a kid.
Yeah.
And, I thought, I don't want to struggle, and daycare is expensive, and things like that. And just yesterday, taking my daughter to urgent care and those things, like, they add up, and I just didn't want to have a life of struggle. Of course, now I've taken on a whole different set of struggles being an entrepreneur, but it feels different, and it feels worth it.
Yeah.
So, that you had it right. So, was an agent, productivity coach, did 1 year of teaching, and it was enough to really show me, this isn't what I want to be doing. But like I said, I knew I didn't want to go back into sales. And actually, a friend had suggested to me, she said, you did so good marketing your own business. Why don't you do it for other people? And then I got to thinking, gosh, when I was the productivity coach, I was doing it for free for a lot. I was creating templates and doing emails for my agents, and they
So just to give everyone a time frame. So you're finishing this school year, and these thoughts are going through. You're talking to your girlfriend, and she kind of gives you a little boost of this idea.
Yeah. So the school year, I don't even remember when the last day of school actually was, but I technically launched my company on June 1st of 2023. So it was a pretty quick turnaround, and I knew I needed it to be, because I also knew I had baby on the way, and I really wanted to get started before she got there so that I could kind of just see, is this going to take off or not? And it has. So when you were a productivity coach and a lot of your agents that you're working with,
they just realized you had this skill of some of the things that you're marketing wise, or you were coaching them on the marketing?
So
What created the conversation? They started asking you to.
Mostly coaching, and it wasn't even necessarily, when you're an agent, you wear so many hats. And I almost felt like it was my responsibility of, I'm going to do everything that I can to help these people succeed. And if that means taking some of the hats off of their head so that they can wear their number one hat, which is lead generation and building their relationships so they can build their businesses, that's what I want to do. And, obviously Keller Williams, they teach based on the Millionaire Real Estate Agent Handbook. It's a phenomenal resource for any agent. So if you're trying to build your business and you're looking for a framework, cannot recommend it enough. But one of the things that they talk about is called the 36 touch plan, or used to be 33 touch plan. And it's essentially, they're very big at Keller Williams on your database, not buying leads and that sort of thing, because, it's just, in my opinion, not worth it. So we want to build those lasting relationships. And basically that's what kind of the role that I took on, in addition to helping coach their mindsets of how else can I support the growth of their business. And so I looked for ways that I could support that 36 touch. So that's kind of where I really kind of dipped my toes in, if we're, rewinding, was starting doing email marketing campaigns for agents. And these were, not custom. They were, I say they were not custom. I created it, so it was custom, but it wasn't custom for each agent. But it would have, local events and things that would make people want to open it. It wasn't just like...
You just started to do this as kind of just an idea that you had, and said, hey, let me give you this, and started giving them these...
Yeah, just started
newsletter.
Giving it to them, showed them how to use it, as far as, I created the template, and it's like, here's how you import it and send it and that sort of thing. But really just looking at that 36 touch and saying, okay, what can I take off of their plate for them? So the newsletter templates, looking at, okay, when could we mail postcards to your database? All right, let's design those so that they don't have to think about it, because when you're thinking about so many things, you can kind of get in that state of analysis paralysis. What should I be working on?
Let's talk about the analysis paralysis thing, because I think this is probably in a lot of different areas, but in just mailing out a postcard. Should I mail it out to that neighborhood? When should I mail it out? Number one, procrastination. What should I put on it? And not realizing, I think a lot of people in comment on this, I think a lot of people don't even think about how do they actually, when they get that postcard, to me, the best postcards to send out from a real estate agent standpoint is to send out what's sold recently in the neighborhood, because there's nothing that's going to stop current homeowner in a particular neighborhood is to stop and look at what is sold around them.
Right.
They all want to, do that. We're getting all these things right now. Obviously, the local elections, right? The county people. We're getting any day. I come home and there's, some of the, I don't know what they spend on some of these large postcards. They're bigger than an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, right? And it's like, we're not even looking at them.
Right.
I don't reference that. I literally, boom, it goes in the recycling bin as quickly as I get them. The procrastination over a real estate agent sending a postcard out is make a command decision and do it, because you're already 10 steps ahead of the next guy, because the next guy ain't doing it.
1000%. And I really feel like that's sometimes a lot of the value that myself and my team bring to agents is you don't have to think about it. And back when I was doing it in that productivity coaching role, it's like, boom, it's done for you. Like, it's done. All we have to do is hit send. So they're not having to question, what do I put on it, and when should I send it, and who should I send it to? Which in that situation, because there are obviously a lot of different ways that you can market your real estate business. And one of the main kind of categories that we put people in is, are we farming people that we don't know, or are we marketing to people that we do know? Because it's going to be two different approaches there. Totally agree with you. Putting stuff that's sold on there, when I'm marketing people to their own database, we put their face on it. That will stop someone in their tracks of like, oh, it's Tracy. I know him. That sort of thing. But,
or just, you're actually, in a way, because we talk about relationships, and we're talking about it more later on as we get into different marketing things, video, building relationships. But putting your picture on there is a way of building. Now they know what you look like.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And then when they do see you in the video, they're strolling through Instagram or whatever, and you come up on a reel. Oh, I know that person. Stop and hold on. Let's see what are they saying.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, the analysis paralysis, that's something that definitely I wanted to help prevent as much as I could with those agents. And then also now, because it's funny because agents will come to me and they talk about the timing. Oh, it would take me hours to put together this postcard. So that's definitely a need that we fill, if you will, of just taking that time burden off of them, but just taking it to where they are not having to make the decisions. And they'll say, what do you think about this? And 9 times out of 10, I'm like, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. We just gotta do it.
You're almost like you're in corporate America, and when they hire Sailor and Co., they are hiring, more or less, depending on how, I mean, you kind of a la carte things or give them a package. I'm sure you customize whatever to your particular agent, but you're hiring a marketing company.
Yeah.
And with a real estate experience.
Yeah.
Not just hiring a marketing company saying, hey, market, and they're like, okay, they're a real estate agent. Let's see, we've done this marketing for this type of person. Let's trying that type of thing. What gave you the confidence though? I mean, you're finishing that school year, you're talking to your girlfriend like, yeah, I can do that. I remember, when I was coach, I was getting asked all the time and I was helping people out with their marketing. What gave you the confidence that you could actually take this really and, because I imagine just those people that were using you, and some of them, like you said, and you talked to me the other day, you said some people just call you and you create a flyer. I mean, you can't live off of that. Right? That you actually could dive into this and make it bigger enough to actually have enough clients to create an income.
Yeah. So there is a hilarious, it's kind of not as big now, but there was a hilarious trend going around, trending audio on Instagram. And that was the exact question that someone asked this girl. And it's so funny that it went viral. And they said, what gave you the confidence to do this? And she goes, delusion. And it's funny because sometimes I feel that way. Obviously my own experience as an agent and marketing myself, I learned a lot. So that built my confidence. At Keller Williams, there is a saying, and I'm sure this is everywhere, but again, you have to remember that's where I'm like implanted basically. Right. And they have a saying that they say all the time that says, with competence comes confidence. And so if you want to build your confidence in something, you've got to build your competence in your knowledge. So I really started, once I decided I want to do this, I started just consuming so much information. You have to be careful with that because again, sometimes it can lead to that analysis paralysis. Yeah. So I found just a few people that I felt were really, really great in that space and kind of just latched onto them. And these don't have to be people that, I don't know these people, but was consuming their podcasts and what they were putting out on the internet to help me just kind of learn marketing, but also to help with my own mindset because we all have bad days. I mean, I could ask you the same thing. What gave you the confidence to start a podcast? And, there are probably days where the confidence it's low. And I definitely go through that. So
I guess.
Yeah. And maybe not,
I was thinking, that's a good question.
and maybe not at this point, in the journey, but I definitely, as far as what gave me the confidence is
I obviously, I'm a generation older than you. So that could have started for me a long time ago.
Yeah.
And having that conversation versus, like you said, you were trying to find yourself, you got a child on the way, you guys are, balancing those things and you're looking back. Because you could always say, hey, I could always go back to doing real estate. I made money doing that.
Right.
Gives you that thing. But I know there are some personal development people that say, don't have a plan B.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Everyone's different. I can agree to an extent of don't have a plan B, but I also we have to be realistic. Bills have to be paid. So if you need to have that backup plan, but it could be something as simple as anyone can go wait tables and make money. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like you'll find a way to pay. Well,
you have confidence to do that. A lot of people don't have that confidence. They get, oh my God, if I don't have this, the world's come to an end.
Yeah.
Trust me, there's a way to get,
Absolutely.
And today it's even better now. It's Uber or whatever.
There's so many opportunities. And I think for anyone listening that might be feeling a lack of confidence, because in real estate, I will say it's very hard as far as having self-confidence and not comparing yourself because you're seeing other people's highlight reels. you have to, and you made me think of this when you said I'm a generation older. You can look back at all of the things that you've been successful at. That helps build your confidence. And maybe also the things that you weren't so successful at, but that taught you lessons that you were like, okay, I can use this so that I don't make those same mistakes again. And
or it didn't hurt as bad. So let's try it again.
So let's just keep going, fail forward.
That's right.
But yeah, I definitely had to, sometimes you have to create that list for yourself and say, not to sound braggy, but you know what? I've been pretty great at almost anything that I've really put my efforts into, I've done pretty well at. So I don't have to know everything. In fact, waiting until you do know everything to actually try something is one of the worst mistakes you can make.
Right.
You just got to go all in and do it. And that's what I've done. And sometimes I remind myself that, I look at people that are ahead of me, and sometimes I'm like, I wish I was there. I wish I need to do more, to build more, to learn more. But I have to remind myself I'm still doing more than the person that I'm serving.
Right.
You don't have to be 5 steps ahead. You just have to be a few steps ahead so that you can serve them.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So one thing that impressed me the other day when we were having lunch and was, I guess, the way you intake, but your mindset on your customer, and in this case, the real estate agents who need your marketing at any level, but you dig into them a little bit.
Yeah.
Tell us about, and for listeners, what Emily's going to talk about is when she takes you on as a client, at whatever level, whatever package or whatever, whatever needs, because we'll get into all the things that she provides. But I think the really thing that sets you apart and is really unique is you dig into them a little bit because you want this marketing to be them and represent them, which is the word branding.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I would say most of my clients are not brand new. It's not saying that I won't take on a brand new client, but most of them are not
brand new agent. You mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
They're not brand new agent. And the reason that I point that out is a lot of times when they come to me, they've already done some sort of marketing or branding themselves 9 times out of 10. Doesn't mean that they love it, but they've already done something. So that's
they know they need to hire someone to do it.
Yes. And so we have that conversation, but the point being that anytime I start working with someone new, I want to make sure that whenever we start putting things out for them, whatever it is, whether it's an email, social media, even if it's a farming postcard, I want the recipient to look at that and think, oh, that's so Tracy, like that's so him, I don't want them to look at it and think, oh, who did he hire? That looks great.
Right.
Obviously I want them to think it looks great, but I still want it to be so authentically you. I have actually met with someone recently, and he said, I've been seeing some people stuff that I think you're doing. And I asked him, I said, well, why do you think I'm doing it? And he said, well, it's just, they're more consistent now. And I'm like, okay, I'll take that. I don't want someone to see, because sometimes you do see that, or there are services out there where you can buy templates and the same person next to you could be using the same exact template. So it's really important to me that everyone's content is just so uniquely them, and that it really represents them and connects with their audience. So yeah, all of our new clients that we bring on, I have them fill out a few different questionnaires. So we have an ideal client questionnaire so that we can figure out who their ideal client is. And then we also have a branding questionnaire. The branding questionnaire does go a little bit personal, where we ask them things like, if you had a day off, describe to me your perfect day. What would it look like from start to finish? What do you enjoy doing? What do you hate doing? That's
right.
Really, if you hate camping, it's important to me that I don't put out the best 10 places to go camping in Jacksonville, because people are going to be like, what the heck? Like, they hate camping. So we ask those kinds of questions. We ask, what are 3 words that someone might use to describe you or your business? And then we ask them, what 3 words do you want people to think of when they think of your business? Because those don't always align.
Right.
So we might have to, recreate someone's brand based on what people already think and what they want people to think. And that's a journey. We look at that, and really the answer to these questions, because a lot of times I think the mistake that people make when they think about branding is they go straight into fonts and colors and mood board. And mood boards can help, but, really figuring out what story do you want your brand to tell? That's really what it's about. And then we can make those decisions based off of that. So we have them do that. And then the other question here,
I just want to point out how this is deep, because if you go back, there's a great on the History Channel, I think it is. It goes back and talks about all the great companies that created America, basically, right? The Nabisco and all these companies that, early part of the century were created, whether it was Kraft cheese or, I mean, you think of all these things, Oreo cookies, and just all these things are on the History Channel. And they're these guys of how they created these products, but it's also created the brand behind them and how deep they went. And sometimes maybe they just fell upon it,
right?
Type of thing, heard something and came up with an idea and said, oh, that sounds good, let's try it. And all of a sudden it blew up. But there's a deeper thing into it other than just finding some font that you think looks good in a color.
Yeah. And I think, and you'll see that, and this is not to make anyone feel bad, but you will see that in some people's brands because they change it a lot. And so you start to notice the brand inconsistency, and it does create these feelings of like, I can't even think of the word, but it's, there's power in creating that consistency, and it just really does something to a person's mind of, it's like, man, they're solid. Like, they're solid, they're consistent. You can trust them because they keep showing up. And so I think that's really important. So really identifying the brand is one of the first steps. And I will say, sometimes I have people come to me, I am thinking of someone right now who, whenever I sent them the brand questionnaire and they didn't even fill it out, and they emailed me back and they said, we have no brand, go with it. And so we created, I thought about what I knew of them, and we really kind of just started to create from there. And I remember when I delivered the first set of samples, I was like, if you hate it, you're not going to hurt my feelings. This is just kind of what I've gotten from you guys. And they were like, we love it. Like, keep going. Yeah. So that's okay if you don't have a background.
I always like to put the rubber to the road. If you were doing a newsletter for me and you wanted to put a recipe on there, you're not putting a recipe for some quiche.
Right.
You're putting a steak recipe, how to cook a great steak.
Yeah.
So those are the types of things that, because that's me. Everyone listening to this can think of something else, what their thing, or what type of restaurant,
right?
Or type of thing that you may put on the recommendation list, or are they a seafood lover? They like Chinese food. They like going to hibachi. I don't know, but those are the types of things. But that's you, and you want to put that in there. And I think people underestimate.
Oh my gosh, 1,000%.
The power of what we're talking about.
1,000%. And why I think it's so important is because we go back to the goal, which is to build and strengthen our relationships. And I think what a lot of people forget is most of the time the people that are in our audience or in our circle, or the ones that we want to be, are a lot like us. So if we can, really craft the message and the content to showcase these things, that's going to build that connection. So it is 1,000% underestimated, which really leads us to that other questionnaire, which is, who is your ideal client?
Right.
And it's so funny.
All right, so we want to dig into this. I prepped you for this.
Okay.
We're going to dig into the avatar.
Yes.
All right. Why is it important? Because it really didn't come to me the other day. And even when I've told the story when I started the podcast, or if you listen to anyone about starting a podcast online or whatever, like, what's your avatar? Who do you think your listener is going to be? And you really need to narrow what you think it is. It isn't always going to be 100% of those people in that window that you're creating. There's going to be overlap, but it goes back to the marketing and consistency.
Yes, yeah. 1,000%. When I broach this topic, I can feel the resistance sometimes with clients of I don't want to choose an avatar. And it's because, and sometimes avatar, that word throws people off, and that in and of itself might feel authentic. And it's just an industry term, so you can think about it however you want, whoever you want. Who do you want to work with? Right. And this is when I get I'll work with anyone. Right. If they're going to buy a house, I'll work with them. And I hear you, and I hear that. But I remember remember when I was getting started, like most agents getting started in real estate, you're trying to think of how can I get business quickly, and open houses can be a great opportunity for that. So that's what I was doing. And I remember I don't even know what he was called at the time. He wasn't a productivity coach, but something kind of like that. And we were talking about open houses, and I was like, I'm thinking about doing one this weekend in Orange Park. I don't live in Orange Park. And he goes, do you want to do a lot of business in Orange Park? And I was like, well, not really. Like, I kind of hate driving all the way there. Mm-hmm. And he said, then why would you do an open house there? Because people that go to open houses in Orange Park want to buy houses in Orange Park. And I'm like, duh, like, yes, that, why didn't I think of that? And while, I'll take a listing in Orange Park, or if it's someone that I know, I'll take a buyer in Orange Park, but why would I go looking for business there, if that makes sense? So really the power in figuring out who your ideal client is you unlock attraction marketing. So this is something that I too at first was very skeptical of. When I started my YouTube channel, I was like, I don't know who it should be. I don't know who's going to trust me. And so I actually was like, first time home buyers, that's going to be my ideal client, because that's the only person I can think of that's going to trust me to help them buy or sell a house, which they wouldn't even be selling because they're first time home buyers. Not a single client that I got was a first time home buyer. And the reason that I tell that story is because you're not going to limit yourself. You're not going to cut yourself off. But what you are going to do is you're going to show up as an expert for somebody. And it's like that saying, a jack of all trades is a master of none. So if you kind of do a little bit of dabbling here and a little bit of dabbling there and a little bit of dabbling there, you're not going to be memorable. Mm-hmm. But the person who, like, if you think right now, and I love the Atlantic Beach area. I walk there all the time and I see the for sale signs. And if I think who sells houses in Atlantic Beach, there's like 3 agents that come to mind. And that's because they have become specialists. Like, that is their area. They freaking own that area. Mm-hmm. And versus, that's not to say that someone else can't sell their house in Atlantic Beach, but they're the specialist. So you have to figure out who is your ideal client and how can you show up as the specialist for them. It's the same thing with like a doctor. If something's wrong with you, and no hate, but it's like, if you have the choice between asking the MA, the medical assistant, mm-hmm. versus the physician, you're going to ask the physician because they're the expert. I want to circle back at the beginning. You said, you were making the joke about the police officer pulling you over and asking your real estate license. In reality, when you think about it, there's a very small percentage of agents who are really doing significant business. So true. Of the 12,000 agents, less than 1,000 are probably real. I know they said 50% sold less than 2. Yes, that was a national thing, I think. But I think block in some agents' mind that, if I just bounce around everywhere, I'll find something. Because if I specialize in this area, well, those people in that area, they know agents. Well, mm-hmm. Yeah, everybody knows agents. Everybody. The question is, do they know, like, and trust them to actually can do the transaction? And the agent, they know, maybe a part-timer, mm-hmm. maybe just does one here and there, and that person doesn't have confidence in them to sell their home. They know them, but it doesn't mean they want them to actually represent them. And it's because obviously we know the majority of the population does know agents, but not everybody knows that 1-2%. Those 1-2% are getting calls, either, I'm sure they're getting referrals, but they're also getting some calls off the fact that they're marketing that neighborhood. Yeah. They've seen them sell other homes in that neighborhood. They know they're that expert as you. And for the agent that doesn't have really that experience built up yet, or that transaction history built up yet, I just had the quote in my head and it left me because that's mom brain. That was my life. But so I read it, and you've heard it, I'm sure, where it says there are people out there who are far less qualified than you, mm-hmm. that are going to do better just because they chose to get after it, just because they chose to go for it, and they didn't care. Right. And on the flip side of what you were just saying, there's also people who they're going to ask their friend who's only ever sold one house and is a part-timer, and they don't know that we just changed from NEFAR to FAR-BAR contracts, which have totally different terms.
Which I've heard there is a bunch of agents out there right now. Someone was just telling me last week, I don't know if it was Luke or someone, said they got the old contract over. It's like, dude, this ended on July 1st.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, but there are people that will still hire that person. Why?
Yeah.
You said it. They know them, they like them, and they trust them.
Yeah.
And through marketing yourself, you can build that. So it's so important to understand who that ideal client is so that you can show up for them. Again, it's not going to limit yourself. It's really not. So we dig deep on that. And I think what people find is when we start putting out content, no one is isolated. No one is left out. But you really start to draw in those people who are your favorite people to work with.
And I think the reason why I wanted to dig into Avatar too, because I don't think the average person knows, is, you know, like I said, you know, the other day while we were sitting there, an agent had sent me a flyer, and I immediately flashed it to you, and you immediately analyzed it of what her target market is, which is it is, and she may not even realize she just chose that font because that's her mindset, and she's attracting like-minded people. The importance of, you know, some of the things that, you know, if someone's looking for first-time home buyers, or they're looking for the luxury $800 million home or plus, there's some difference in the graphics and the colors they may use, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Or even, you know, I put something together for someone the other day. She has an off-market property. It's like 4-point-something million. And even something as simple as lowering the font size to where there's just a little more white space. And even when you think sometimes of like luxury homes, there's not clutter. And so when you're putting together marketing materials, you don't want there to be clutter.
Yeah.
And like there are so many little things like that will just speak to someone. And it's not to say, you know, I really think there's no, and you know, there are some times where I'm like, ooh, that might be like a no as far as like, you know, you don't want to put red text on black background and stuff like that. Like
right.
there are little things visually that they say, you know, don't do, they being it's not my rule, but you look at it and you're like, okay, it makes sense. But where I'm going with that is I want to say that there's really not a wrong way, in that, you know, I have clients who they use like teal and coral and fonts that maybe someone might say, oh, I don't like that. I don't think that's professional. But their brand, I mean, they're very professional and they do a lot of business, but their brand is approachable and friendly and fun. And that's how they want to show up. And those are the people that they attract. They don't want to attract the person that
there's always someone out there that doesn't like you.
Exactly. And the whole point is really attracting the people that you like working with.
Right.
Because we've all had that transaction where we're like, my God, if I never work with this person again, I will be okay. I don't care how many houses they have to sell.
Do you find when you start breaking down some of this with your clients, their avatar is a lot like them.
Their avatar,
you know,
is
where
so
you know
much like
they're
them.
If they're in the middle of St. Johns County, in the middle of a subdivision, where they're CDD or whatever, and that's really when you start breaking it down, they're surrounded by the people who are like-minded like themselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
Their avatar is so much like them, and it kind of brings us back to that analysis paralysis. You know, when you're trying to cast a net to everyone, that creates that disjointed representation of yourself as a professional. And so that's another powerful what's the word I'm looking for, like side effect, if you will, of identifying who your ideal client avatar is.
You may have that first-time home buyer who really is maybe, let's say, 250, 350, whatever range right now, type of person. I think, you know, any agent listening right now can visualize that person trying to break into that. But you're marketing in the, you know, St. John's $400,000 to $800,000 subdivision market. But because that first-time home buyer wants to be there,
1,000%.
they will be attracted to you because that's what you're doing in marketing is where they want to be.
Yeah.
They may, you know, have the first-time home buyer budget, but you're still going to gather that customer because you're marketing to where they want to be.
Yeah, and I think when you couple it all together of having that defined brand, having brand consistency, knowing who your ideal client is, and just showing up for them regularly over and over and over again, even if someone might not necessarily fall into that ideal client bucket, if you will, what you're creating is trust. And that is just so powerful. And they look at you and think, that's someone that I can trust. I've worked with people when I was an agent that were nothing like me, but I created trust. And that's
Which
powerful.
then gets them to contact you, and then hopefully that's where the light comes in.
Absolutely.
Right? And
Absolutely.
of course, you can build credibility without actually being in front of someone. But obviously, you do, when you do actually meet them, even build more credibility.
Absolutely.
But just by your representation. So we're going to go through your list of services. I want you to break it down. But I think, agree or disagree or direct this, how I want to do this. The importance of, you've used the word consistency. Where you're showing up, the different social media platforms and so forth. So make sure we kind of break down as we go into these things where you're showing up. I think you said one of the most popular products you have is that custom made newsletter, with the brand, that says something about the agent just by its appearance,
right,
is one of your most popular products because everyone wants that. So let's start off with the newsletter. Why is it important? Looking at other agents that obviously are not with you using your service, how many of them are actually doing it on a regular consistency basis, like they should? Because the number of touches, once a month, right? How often do you recommend the newsletter?
Really great question. Most of my clients are once a month for the newsletter. I have some that do twice a month. And the reason that most are once a month is Keller Williams has a back-end service or like a CRM called Command. And there is a function in there where you can do what's called a monthly neighborhood nurture. So I do think 2 touches via email a month is the ideal sequence. But what we do is we have their personal newsletter, which is what I create, and then we also get them set up on that monthly neighborhood nurture. And what that does is when you add someone into your database, you can identify their neighborhood or their area, and it basically sends them a monthly neighborhood report that says, here's what sold recently, here's what homes are selling for, average price per square foot. Like, it's just
right down to the neighborhood.
Yeah,
that's really good.
It's really neat, and there's so many systems out there.
I wonder how many people are actually leveraging that.
Very few. So
wow.
Yeah, you can actually go into the platform, and it's kind of
and I'm sure that's not unique to Keller Williams. I'm sure all these it's not some proprietary program.
Yeah.
I mean, with artificial intelligence and everything now, these things are coming online if they're not already.
Yeah, even if, like, let's say you're an agent listening, you don't have a CRM. If you're an agent and you're a member of the board, you're on the MLS. Put all your people on the MLS and have them get updated once a month, just based on, you can set the subdivisions and they'll get that and say, here's what's going on. But people like to know, especially the homeowners, they like to know what's happening in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
I think that that's really powerful. So that's one touch. And then the other touch is just a lot more fun. And this is where that brand and that ideal client come into play. The reason that I so highly recommend the newsletter, whether you hire me to do it, you do it yourself, whatever. And I will say, to answer your question, this is me being generous with numbers. I would say probably 70% of agents do not send a newsletter or don't send one consistently. And it's probably much higher than that.
Yeah.
But that's
consistency behind it drops the percentage.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And
because they're sitting there trying to create it.
It's time consuming, analysis paralysis again, so that there's so much room, there's so much opportunity there. And so the reason that I think this is so powerful is it's a low cost way to touch your people consistently.
Plug it in and let it go.
Exactly. And, I look at open rates and stuff like that. And the industry average in real estate, the open rate's 36% and the click rate is 1.4%. We get anywhere from about 45 to sometimes 60% open rates and anywhere from about maybe 4 to recently 11% click rates.
Why are you putting something in the subject line? What are you doing to to hopefully boost that a little?
So the subject line, we're always trying to create curiosity. What's going to make them want to open this? We do have a flow for our content. So sometimes it can be tough because although the content's different every month, we kind of touch on some of the same things. Sometimes everyone has their days where the creative juices aren't flowing.
Right.
So sometimes it can be challenging, but we really try to create curiosity to make people want to open it. But I think what's just so important, because you can have the best subject line ever, and if they open that email and it's crap, they're never going to open it again. And that is what we really put a lot of effort into, is packing the email full of value. And how do you know what's valuable? You have to know who your ideal client is. What do they care about? There are always some things that we do. We normally always do some featured listings because people like to see it, whether it's the agent's listings or if they don't have any, we'll feature, someone within their brokerage if we have the permission to do that sort of thing. People love to look at pretty houses. That's why HGTV does so well.
Well, you're hoping that someone looks at it and go, I'm interested in that, or you know what, I may know somebody who's interested in that. And, obviously you're trying to hopefully create something.
Absolutely.
If every time you sent the email out, you got one call, one referral from it, oh my God, that would be priceless.
Absolutely. That's okay. If you do that, that's 2 leads. If you're sending it monthly, that's 24 leads. Imagine if you close 24 transactions in 1 year. Some of these agents, that would be huge. That'll be life-changing for some people. So we do that. We normally include some sort of market update, but we really try to make sure, and this is where I think it's really valuable, having the background in real estate and being embedded within a brokerage. And this is not to say that I don't work with people outside of Keller Williams. I have clients that are not Keller Williams agents, but I love that I do get to be there because I have relationships with the brokers and I get to hear the conversations that are happening of what's going on in the market right now. And it helps me grow and learn continuously so that whenever we do market updates, it's relevant. And it's not just like, this many houses were sold and this many, it's like, and here's what it means for you. If you want to buy, if you want to sell, if you're just wondering what's going on with property values, here's how this impacts you.
And shouldn't they realize too, many people obviously are not buying and selling. They may go years between it, or
I think the average is like 7, right?
Even
7
if they're not,
between a move.
if they got a friend, if they got a friend who maybe they see it coming in, they don't delete it because they know you, but they may not open it until they're ready. For that. Now, obviously they open it and you're giving them some other things like a great recipe or something. There are some people that love that stuff and they want to click on and see what your latest recipe is going to be this month. And that may be part of the people, but some people just let that email come in and then when they're ready, they'll actually open it and actually start engaging.
1000%. And we do try to put other content in there, like you said, just for that reason, to appeal to the people. Because you're right. I think the statistic is like every 7 years, 5 to 7, 7 to 10. It changes of when people are going to make a move. The point is keeping you top of mind with your people so that when they're ready to make a move, you're the first person that they call. So we do put that other content in there where it could be a recipe. I have an incredible content assistant, Courtney, and she recently was like, oh yeah, what do you think of this for this newsletter? And she was doing like upcoming workshops around town and they were so fun. I don't even remember what they were, but I'm like, this is a great idea. If I got that, I want to say one of them was like a pottery workshop and it was like a sip and spin. So you're like, kind of like a sip and paint, but you're doing pottery. I'm like, that's so, like, maybe I'm this person.
Well, I'm going to give you one. I'm going to tell you right now, for Northern St. Johns County, they don't know what's going on in downtown St. Augustine. And there is always something going on in downtown St. Augustine. And for some reason, there's a disconnect between the old city and the northern part of the county and like letting them know all these festivals that are going on at St. Francis Field. Yeah.
They were doing, there's like 2 places I'm trying to think of off the top of my head because we put them in newsletters all the time. There's the little like courtyard in downtown St. Augustine right next to the Bridge of Lions and they do like free weekly concerts. And then there's also weekly or maybe bi-weekly concerts by the pier that are free, and that's like just putting stuff out there because you might have that one person that's like, oh, I want to, that sounds fun.
Right.
Or we just did a newsletter for someone and her brand or the market that she wants to be in is luxury. And so I don't even remember, I was searching something else and then I came across this trend called quiet luxury and I had never heard of it and it sparked my interest. And so I'm like, how many other people will it spark their interest? So that became a content piece for her newsletter is, have you heard of quiet luxury? Here's how you can put that in your own home.
Right.
So again, it all comes back to really understanding, who that ideal client is and giving them content that they want and just consistently delivering it.
Okay. I want to, we don't want to, I want to, because I got some other things going on from time wise. The important thing we want everyone to know is this is not just the her and her team throwing stuff in the newsletter. You need to get with Emily and talk to her about and have her create that customized newsletter that tailors to your area of town, whether you're in Amelia Island, you're in St. John's County, whatever. That is the important, which I think is just priceless. It's you're taking it to another level, which, if it gets you one extra deal every 2 years, it's more than I'm sure pays for itself. Mm-hmm. Social media, and we can build in brand building here because I'm taking it right off your website here. Social media, videos, whatever everyone's being told. Huge analysis paralysis here. How do you attack that with a client?
So honestly, kind of the same way that we do with the newsletter or any content, any branding content or marketing content that we put out is really understanding who they are, who their ideal client is, and what do they want to know about it. Just started working with a new client and we just went through this together where, we're trying to figure out where can you really serve your people. He's really into just very knowledgeable about the market in general, into like investing, home improvement. And so we just started building out topics of what do you think that these people are going to want to know about. And now we have our content calendar or our schedule for the content that we're going to put out. We schedule media days where we'll go and we'll just knock it out and batch it. If you're doing it yourself, I can't recommend batching content enough. That is how you save time, is batching the content, batching your editing and that sort of thing. So it's done. You don't have to think about it anymore. So, that's...
You at lunch, I want to bring this out because I think this is important here. You're not just throwing up some stuff. Now you do have to throw up some stuff to start to get some tracking on it. Right. But you guys are going in and watching what is getting the attraction. Absolutely. I think you told a little bit of story, if I remember correctly, where this particular agent was actually getting more hits on their kind of more personal stuff than the actual real estate stuff. Although you want to keep reminding people in your real estate, but maybe you are doing 2/3 personal because that's getting the hits, but they're also going to get that real estate feed to remind them, right?
Absolutely. And we're actually talking about the same agent that I was just telling you story about. But yeah, so before we started working together, he was like, I really want to know kind of what have I been doing? How is that doing? So I did an audit on his Instagram and went through his top performing content and looked at, what's doing the best as far as views and also engagement. Views are great, but if people aren't really engaging on it, how much does it really help you? So we looked at that, and then we also look at the worst performing content. I hate to say worst because he's honestly does a very good job and it's all good in my opinion, but what isn't performing as well and why might that be? But we definitely did discover that his personal content does really well, and he's a big relationships guy in the community anyways, born and raised here, knows a lot of people. And so it's kind of not surprising that that's doing really well. But what that tells us is we've got to keep giving that to people. So that was something that we looked at when we put together this calendar and making sure that it stays balanced. He's got a new listing coming up. So we're going to do some content on his new listing. And then that next one, let's not make it real estate. Let's do something about, dad life, or they're renovating their home right now, or, something local. And then we'll so we hit these content pillars so that it keeps it nice and balanced, because I do think a mistake that people can make sometimes, and it all comes back to what your goal is with social media, but I do think a mistake that people can make sometimes is just list it, just listed, just listed, just sold, just sold, just sold. Here's why you don't need 20%. It's all real estate. And that can be a turnoff. People are like, hey, we get it. You sell houses. But it's just so important that you show up for your people as you and not a salesperson. And we have to think back of why was social media even started? You know, it was those connections.
I've heard on Instagram, although I don't know how many people actually go to someone's actual page. I mean, there are like sometimes when people follow, you know, because the only Instagram I have is the show's page. So when someone follows me, I do click on to see who they are, see if they're a bot, because like they have 0 followers or whatever. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to follow them back. Yeah. Thanks for following me, but I'm not going to follow back. But if they're actually, you know, a real estate agent or something, I follow them. Thanks for following me. But how often they actually go to the page where they see all the panels, right? But yet I've heard stuff like with, you know, the panels, you know, the theme, right? The theme should be the same, like you said, you know, the branding, the colors, and that sort of thing should be the same. But like you said, you could get overwhelmed if every single panel is a picture of a house or the just sold, you know, some people have their templates and their colors, and it's just one after another instead of some, you know, short little video of them talking about, I don't know, could be talking about the house, I don't know, but something different that's changing what it looks like.
And I will say, I just want to preface this because there are some agents out there that do a really good job. Like at the end of the day, they're making great money, and you go on their Instagram and that might be it. It's house after house after house after house. And so I do just want to say that, you know, these comments that I'm sharing are opinions, but based on experience. So it's, if there's something that's working
my question
for you,
would be for that person who is killing it and doing, could they do more? What are they actually, can they back up what they're doing? Not, you know, not say their actual mission, you know, is, but if they actually went in and tracked it, or had someone like yourself, your team tracking and going, or were you actually getting feed there? Or let's change up your Instagram, and maybe all of a sudden we are going to start getting some leads from Instagram, because now we're twisting it around a little bit.
Yeah, no, for sure. At the end of the day, faces matter. Having your face on there is so extremely powerful. I actually, when I'm doing social media and working with Courtney on client social media, we try and keep every like 3 or 4 posts have someone's face in them, so that's consistently, you know, we want someone to click on the page and see you and see who you are. So I think that matters, and that's based on the experience and looking at the analytics from my clients. I also think that the aesthetic or the overall look of the feed matters. So that's important to me as I'm creating content for agents or using content that they've shared me. It's another thing that I do. Almost all of my social media clients, we have shared albums on our phones, and they are constantly dropping photos in there that they're taking so that I can keep their content them, and it's so powerful. But, you know, really just keeping that balance.
So you're creating content for them. I mean, they're feeding you stuff that you can put, actual stuff that you're actually going to publish.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's even like if they see something that someone else maybe has done, I'm a big, you know, believer in, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. If you see something that you think is really great, send it to me. We'll see how we can make this you. Let's put our twist on this. And so they send me things like that. I had a client that just went on vacation, and she shared with me her vacation photos. And that was a recent post because people, they care about that. I mean, they love seeing that you just got a new listing, and they love seeing that you just sold a house, but they also love seeing your family vacation, believe it or not. And so really just keeping that balance is, we try to focus on that with social media for sure.
All right. This area, we chatted a little bit at lunch about the websites. I think agents need to take a few minutes. I mean, I think we overlook websites today versus 10, 15 years ago, before social media.
Right.
Is really, website was like, that was your thing. You got to have your website. But some of the stuff they're putting or linking their social media to their website back and forth, right? Is I don't think I go on some of the websites because I'm Googling a lot of the, especially a lot of people I have on the show. I'm Googling them, or maybe I'm trying to find something out about them. I'm like, well, where's there going to be a bio? Well, hopefully someone has a bio on their website, right?
Absolutely.
But they're not adding the video content. They're not adding the 21st century in there, which is video, and getting the video on there. What are some things that you think are important for agents to have on their website right now?
So on your website right now, I would say, you'll hear a lot of people say you need to have a search capability. And that's kind of
property search.
yes.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, some people say yes, some people say no. The reality is that most people go to Zillow, Realtor.com, places like that to search for properties. But even in my experience as an agent, as a new agent, if I said, hey, here's my app for you to download to search for homes, or here's my website, people would use it. And so I think that if you're paying for a CRM, whether it's included in your monthly dues at your brokerage, or you've bought Lofty or Boomtown or whatever else that you have, what a waste of money. If you are not directing people to that site, don't get in your head thinking, oh, they're not going to use it. Just offer, just say, hey, here's my website to search for homes. It's really great because it shows me what you're looking for. You can request showings with me on there. We can have saved collections, and it really just streamlines our home search process. Why would someone not
I can only imagine that's actually even getting better now with the artificial intelligence.
Absolutely.
Because it's going to go in there, see what they're looking at, and then say, well, if you like that home, you'll probably like these over here.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And where then you really seal the deal is having that other content on there where, the people joke that realtors just open doors or, help you search for homes or whatnot. If you have other valuable content that you are providing on there, it just further strengthens that credibility and that stickiness of the client to you.
100%. I hear exactly where you're coming from. Visualize this, listeners. People don't like to just put their information. I don't. And my pet peeve, why some of you do not have either your direct email address and your phone number on your website. I do not know.
So easy for someone to contact
Yeah,
you.
you don't want someone to go on there and go, oh, I'm not putting this information in because now I'll just start getting all these crazy emails. I just want to email you, but I got to click this thing and I get this generic thing. I'm out.
I am a firm believer, and you have to earn the right to get someone's contact information. And how do you earn that right? It's by providing them with value. So some of the websites that I build for agents, we talk about what are you producing? What can you give to someone that's really super valuable? And for some agents, it's video, and video is so
It could be a simple little video just saying, hey, thanks for coming to my website. Really appreciate it. We could do some great things on here. Fill out up there and I can start sending whatever. Yes. Just having that video conversation, as simple as that, 60 seconds.
Yeah.
Already you start building a relationship because we know through video people are building relationships.
Because it's the next best thing, I would say, to a face-to-face interaction. If you can't sit in front of someone across from them like this, you're almost there, with that video. We also look at what are called lead magnets in the industry, but it's essentially offering something that you can download that is a great value add. There was an agent who, he has a really high level business, really awesome, and he has 2 small daughters, and his wife put together this awesome list of the best summer camps in St. Johns County. And I'm like, hello, this needs to go on every single thing that you have because people will want this.
Yeah.
And sure enough, we put the lead magnet out there and people are downloading it left and right. And now you've got their contact information. Now you can send them the emails. Obviously, we still wouldn't want to spam anyone, but that's where then you have to back that up with having that email of value that you're providing to them every month or every other week, that sort of thing. And I'm going to take it back to our audience being a lot like us. Think of yourself. Who is emailing you that's getting on your nerves? Why are they getting on your nerves? Is it like the frequency of how often they email you? Is it that you open the email and it's really kind of just junk? What is it? And don't do that. You know what I mean?
Great advice.
Honestly, because
Yeah.
you're going to hear people, you could go on YouTube right now and watch so many videos about the plan that you have to do for marketing your real estate business. And I know some people out there that are like, you need to be sending an email every single week. And that works for some people. But if you get annoyed when someone sends you an email every single week, don't do that. You have to think about those sorts of things. And I hope that also, because sometimes when people give advice, it can kind of create this turmoil. You feel your gut kind of twisting of like, I don't want to do that. It doesn't feel authentic.
It goes back to the postcard. What is it that you keep?
Yeah, absolutely.
What is it that you just and then toss out. I mean, we think of restaurants. If they're advertising, I think, we save the Subway. Subway sends out, and they've got the whole thing is coupons of all different things. You can get 3 foot longs or 2 foot longs or this and that and get a Coke or whatever, right?
Yeah.
That's how they value to get you to come in the door, is by advertising that. That's why you keep that particular thing. Now, selling a home, you're not sending coupons out, right? But you got to provide something that's going to trigger what is it that you like about these other real estate agents that are doing or not doing.
And it doesn't even have to be real estate. One of the best pieces of advice that I've been given by someone is, she said, when I was kind of figuring out how to grow my business and how to show up, some of the best advice I got was from listening to a health podcast. And a lot of times, some of these strategies will transfer across industries. So you don't even have to think about what other agents are doing sometimes. You can think, what is someone else doing that just really resonates with you, and how can you do that? I know one agent that she sent out a magnet, but it doesn't have to be a magnet. Those can be higher cost. It could be a postcard, and it had like kitchen measurement conversions on it because she cooks.
Yeah. No one's going to throw that away.
It's on every single.
No one's
going to
throw that away.
Or you have people that do the football schedules.
Or I'm doing that right now.
Yeah, and and I just want to say, if I sent out football schedules, people would be like, "What?" Because if I sent out the UGA football schedule, sure. But if I sent out a football schedule that had the Jags and the Gators on it, people would be like...
No, I disagree with you there.
Would they keep it short? Is it going to strengthen our relationship? There might be that feeling that you can't put your finger on that doesn't feel authentic.
Well, you are marketing to me, if I was to put a schedule out, because you can put multiple teams on these things. Obviously, you're gonna typically lead with the Jaguars, but maybe you don't even put the Jaguars. Maybe you just put Georgia, Florida, and FSU, or Miami, or something like that.
Yes.
That would fall, because your audience, all those alumni are pretty strong in this area.
I totally agree. I guess where I'm trying to go with that is, a lot
it's not your personal theme.
Exactly. And there are so many options. And if the recommendation is 4 personal touches like that a year, yours doesn't have to be a football magnet. There are so many things that agents can do. And so I guess the message I'm trying to send is, spend that time to figure out what's going to work for you. I say spend the time. Don't overanalyze it. But, figure out. If it doesn't feel authentic to you, don't do it.
It just gives me a thought that many of us are involved in different things, whether it's, the kids' Boy Scouts. I'm president of my alumni association, so I send them out a magnet with the Jags, but also our Citadel alumni.
That's cool.
Thing, because they're all in this area. So most of them are following the Jags, but obviously also giving our college football stuff. But whatever it is, these are little areas too that I think a lot of people are missing. Would you agree? Is the small groups that they are part of, that they're not sending the football schedule or the recipe thing or whatever the theme might be, that they would see value in bind you with the group and them, right?
Yeah. And just creating those raving fans, like if you have a database of 500 people, and even that in and of itself can be expensive to market to, depending on what you're sending out. So if you can identify, sometimes you'll hear it referred to as your top sphere or something like that. Who are those raving fans? What connections do you have with them? Can we create subsets of the database, and just start with that? Let's start sending, let's start there, and then we can build on that. You absolutely can do that. Absolutely.
I don't think enough people are really digging. And some of these groups are not huge. Maybe there's only 50 people in them or whatever.
Right.
But you're like-minded because you belong to the same group, right? You're that you need to reach out and touch these people and put all these people on that regular thing. But it comes all the way back to, I think, is the main thing, that one of the obvious cornerstone to your service, besides the custom ability, the personal touches you're putting on there, is you're going to make sure it's sent out and consistently sent out.
Yeah, the execution is going to be there every single time. And that's a huge value in and of itself. I can't tell you how many times people reach out to me, even for something as simple as a flyer, because you brought that up in the beginning. Yes, I have agents reach out to me and all they need is an open house flyer. But to that agent, that service is so valuable because they're like, I would have spent 3 hours on this. I would have missed my child's soccer practice because I was putting together a flyer.
Right.
And so to have someone else do that and execute it for you is really important sometimes. Yeah, the execution will be there.
Yeah. I think to wrap it up, and I want you to kind of just comment that anyone listening right now, to wrap up everything, what Emily and her team is providing is a professional corporate level. Trust me, I've worked for companies that have a lot more larger budget than you ever could, just because obviously the many services they offer are not doing these things, are not providing these things to their soldiers in the field, their salespeople. That you're providing these things, you're taking the time to customize it. Obviously, you're familiar. You're not just working with Keller Williams. You work with any agents. It's just Keller Williams is where you started,
right?
And there you'll work with any agent in town and creating their thing, helping them use and input these things into the CRM they're already paying for.
Absolutely.
Which I continue to preach. All of us have CRMs. It's like our brain, we're only using a small percentage of it. It's like the computers we use, we're only using a small percentage of what it actually can do. There's many people using less than 1% of what their CRMs can do.
Definitely.
To put these things, to take the time, and your team would help them, show them how they can take the things that you're creating, put them into that CRM and put them on auto.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's it. It's all about how do we keep showing up for our people and do it consistently and do it authentically, because at the end of the day, real estate is a business of relationships. So our number one goal is how do we help you show up for your relationships authentically and continue to
with numbers behind them. That's what I really think is really important. You're going the next layer.
Yeah.
You know, it's great to post all these things from Pinterest and all these things that agents are spending hours to create. But imagine having a company that actually creates them. You don't actually spend. I'm sure you proof it and you send it over. Hey, you like this? Yep. Okay, we're good. And then you're if they allow you, you'll go on their social media and not only are pulling the analytics, but making the post for them.
Yeah, or even like this has been so powerful recently. You know, obviously it's a different market right now than it has been in years past. Listings are sitting, and that's just where we're at right now as our market is normalizing and adjusting. And so a service that's become really popular are creating custom emails to feature a listing and then sending those out. So I've been doing that a lot for agents, and we also then provide a report, and we give that to them so they can give it to their seller, and it shows them, here's how many people that this email went to, here's how many people opened it, and here's how many people said, I like this house and I want to see more, and clicked on it.
You could pay tens of thousands of dollars. I've had Krista Mashore on. I don't know if you're familiar with Krista Mashore. But that's one of the things that she goes, when she goes into a listing appointment and, you know, she's showing, hey, yeah, when I did this house down the street, I posted it here. I did a video. I did all this stuff. And look at all the hits. Look at all the people who put eyes on that property.
Right.
And that's where, you know, it's as simple as that. This is not 2020, 21 where rates were low and stuck a sign in the yard. There's a lot of other things going on in people's mind, and you got to put a lot of eyes on it to find that one person that says, hey, I want to make that cash offer. Or, you know, that you still want the multiple offers. So hopefully you are getting, you know, you can still on the right property get more than what you listed for.
Absolutely.
Because you are going to get some people who are going to bid for it, but you got to put enough eyes on it to get those 3 or 4 people that actually go after it.
And I mean, and the truth is, and
chum the water. It's like fishing. Just get it all.
Honestly, and the key here, and I don't want to skirt over this because I don't want people to be thinking this in their head. Obviously, price matters. If your house is overpriced, your house is overpriced.
Yeah.
And that's just, it is what it is. You know, and I can market it to my heart's content, but if it's overpriced, it's overpriced. So I do just want to put that out there, but we are no longer, like you said, in the market where you can just stick a sign in the yard and list it $50,000 over asking and still get or $50,000 over value and still get an over asking offer with a freaking appraisal gap. Like, that's just not where we're at anymore, you know? So we are in a market of skill. And what we do is we help our agents showcase the skill that they have and that they bring to the table to their potential clients. Just like you said with Krista Mashore, saying, this is what I did, this is how I did it, you know, blah. Again, if it's not priced right, it almost kind of hurts your case because you're saying, I did all these things and it still didn't sell. We have to get that right first. But then to be able to say, and here's everything else that I did. I did this for you.
Well, it goes into the thing, the value. This is a full circle of events. You have to show your value. You go in these listing appointments now, you have to show your value. And when you tell them that I need 3% and the buyer's agent needs 3%, and here's why, because I'm going to put 10,000 eyes on this and you're going to get it, and that's not going to be anything to you.
Absolutely.
You have to add value. We talked about, I wanted a couple success stories, or maybe some some of your client comments. Tell us.
Yeah, that is
some people you've really wowed.
That's what really keeps me going, honestly and truly. So I'm so blessed. I seriously, when we talk about your ideal client, I literally love all of my clients as if they were my family. I'm so grateful that these are the people that I've attracted to me. I started working with a client that she's next level. She's the real deal. She knows her stuff. And for me, sometimes it's a little nerve-wracking because I'm like, all right, like I got to show up for this person. I've got to be on my A game. And I remember it might have been the very first reel that I put out for her. And she sends me a screenshot and it said, oh my gosh, look who's doing her own social media now. This is amazing. You crushed it. Because she had hired someone else before me. And that to me, like, it just gives me like...
So someone thought she had actually done it herself, but it was actually you doing it for her.
And that is everything. That is what I'm going for, is for people to see great content and it's so them. So that just
because authenticity is the word of the day.
And it's like...
And like you said, you don't want to make it look like some generic thing. This is a relationship building, so you really need to make it look like they just did it, but did it good.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then yesterday I was on a call with someone actually about her website. We're talking about, just making it better and that sort of thing. But I recently started doing her newsletter for her. And she was talking about this agent's only been in business 3 years and really is just very high level. But she was talking about how she would spend just her day out showing property, doing all of the things that she needs to be doing, and then get home and spend hours in front of her computer doing the back end stuff, trying to do the newsletter, trying to do the social media, making sure her transactions are in order. And she said, and she has 2 daughters, and she said, I realized I can't do this anymore. I have got to find leverage, and obviously good leverage so that you're not then cleaning up someone else's mess later. But she got teary-eyed, and she said, on last Friday, when this person was putting in my listing in the MLS and it's beautiful, and on Thursday you sent out the newsletter, and I had so many people email me and say, oh my God, this newsletter is amazing. I'm so glad that you're doing this. Like, thank you. And she has tears in her eyes. And to realize like what that does for not just someone's business to help elevate it and take it to the next level, but the mental load that we get to take off of our clients so that they get to show up at what they're good at in their business, but then also show up for their families at home. Yeah. Like that's everything to us. Like it's
so many people are afraid and having Samantha Cox with Ops Suite and what she offers. Amazing. And then your specialized marketing area. These are 2 areas that you have to take a leap of faith with, although the transaction coordinator is easy because it's like it's a pay to play. You don't have a deal, you don't pay, right? So that's an easy one,
right?
But you have to realize the importance of this and the longevity of what you need to do, and then having that time to spend more time with your clients, more time with your kids, or whatever, get your life in it. You feel better. Absolutely. I think anyone can look in their, especially if you're in sales, when you're feeling good about yourself, maybe, you lost weight or got in shape or whatever it is that just made you feel good, you attracted because of the positive energy that you're putting off. So when you're being given this peace time, I'll call it that, the time with your kids, or sometimes, these great people say, I get up and I meditate for 15 minutes every morning. Oh, how do you have time to do that? Well, because I have someone else doing all this other stuff that I'm not concerned with. I can meditate on doing the forward-facing stuff, the prospecting and the relationships.
Because I will say, too, because I've been here, it's almost worse when you're trying to have those moments for yourself, but all you can think of in the back of your mind is how when you're finished.
I got to do that marketing campaign. I got to design that
It stinks.
for that open house I'm
Yeah.
having this weekend.
I've been there. Like you'll almost feel sick to your stomach. And having people that you can trust that are really going to execute it at a high level is just so powerful. And have to plug Sam like you did. I mean, she's amazing. She is who that agent was referring to when she said they took my listing live. Her listing management is taking agents' listings to the next level. And so it's great that we got to have that all working relationship together. And just to see an agent in tears over it lets you know that what you're doing really matters, which also is important to me because obviously it's important to anyone, but leaving the field of being an educator where it's such a high calling, there's a lot of guilt when you leave that behind, feeling like, I was doing it for the kids and that sort of thing. Still making that impact is just, I couldn't ask for anything better.
All right. So important. You need to reach out, listeners. You need to reach out to Emily and her team. Saylor, Saylor and Co. Instagram. They have a website. Just go on there. Obviously, it's all in the show notes here. Reach out to her. See what she can do. It's a la carte. Maybe you just want the newsletter, right? But there's a lot of things that we probably didn't talk about every single little thing that you are probably doing for some of these agents. All they need to do is ask, and you could put that program together. But I appreciate you coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
I was so excited about this. Thank you so much.
Thank you.